interesting you mentioned how well received Yoko was when she performed there, because here she's, she's blamed for the breakup of the Beatles, among other things. But there she was really revered.
That was the first big thing. I mean, Yoko came out of an avant-garde art scene, which is very intellectual and something that people have to think about, and most people don't like to think at all. So they didn't really understand her art. And of course, John was so infatuated with her, they thought it was her fault. Although nobody told John Lennon what to do. He did what he wanted to do. He was very much in control of himself. He was not controlled by a woman or anybody. Anyway, so that was kind of a big deterrent towards her. And I didn't really know who she was when I first met her. I only know all the rumors about her, but I'm actually one of the few people who had seen her art before I heard about the Beatles. There was a magazine called The Realist. And one day I was reading the magazine. I still remember it was such an odd thing. There was a Japanese woman who had a loft on Canal Street. And you could go, and it cost $5 to go in the loft. And in the loft, she had a large, a number of very large black bags. And you could get in the bag, and or you can get in the bag with someone. And in the bag, in those hippie day expression, you could do your thing, meaning anything you felt like doing. Or you could just go in a room and watch other people get in the bags and wonder what they were doing. And I just thought that was the strangest thing I had ever heard of that was called art. And that's why it kind of stuck out in my mind. And then about 5 years later, there was John Lennon from the Beatles inside a black bag with a Japanese artist. And I thought, well, there can't be two ladies doing that. But I was always fascinated by her and her art. But and her singing just seemed so strange. I mean, it wasn't singing. It was this odd sound, ululating voice. And then when I saw her in Japan, because then I saw her in Madison Square Garden and people were booing. Nobody wanted to hear it. As soon as she started doing her sound, everybody was like, really, not everybody, but a lot of people were kind of down on that. They didn't want to hear it. In Japan, they listened. And I got to listen for the first time. And I realized that it's not singing, but she's like using her voice like an instrument, the way her friend Ornette Coleman uses his saxophone, that she was emitting emotional sounds in a vocal style. And the audience in Japan really listened to it and really enjoyed it. And that was the first time I got to see what people, what they were getting from it. And I became a big fan after that. I really like what she does. And if you've ever seen her live, she's phenomenal. Other people can't do what she does, and the intensity of her emotion. But most people don't like intense emotions. That's why people get drunk and get high, because they want to dull the emotions. They don't want to feel things at all. Yoko's art is very strong, very powerful, and makes you feel. When you see some of her art, you react strongly. People don't like to react strongly, and so they didn't like her art, and they blamed her. Like, Yoko made me feel bad. Yoko made me feel it all.
Which is more than you could say for most people.
It's a what?
That's more than you can say for most people if they felt anything.
Right. You kind of look at something, oh, that's nice. My wife's an artist, and one of her the comments she likes the least is, oh, that's very nice. She doesn't want it to be nice. She wants people to feel something, And Yoko's, you feel very strongly, and a lot of her art dealt with painful feelings. And when somebody would see it and they would feel pain, they would blame Yoko for making them feel pain, rather than realizing how good she was, that she made them feel so strongly. They were like, oh, Yoko made me feel all these things. I don't like her, One of her pieces is called The Nuclear Family. And it's a family sitting on a park bench. It's a big bronze sculpture, but the family is kind of melting, and it's all black. And so the nuclear family it makes you think of is one that's just been blown up.
Right.
And it's kind of a double meaning, and it's a very powerful piece. When you see these black sculptures that are melting, it's very disturbing. And I talked to her about it once when it was in a museum, and she was saying that she hoped somebody would buy it, but not a private collector, but a museum or an institution where people could see it, that it wouldn't get tucked away in somebody's backyard. And she said the best would be if somebody would buy it and put it in the city park so even more people could see it. And I said, well, you know, it's very disturbing. She said, yes. I said, you know, people see it, they're not going to like it. And she said, I know. You're not necessarily supposed to like it. She did a show once at the Whitney Museum in the 80s that was all brass. And it was a play on things she had done in the 60s. And in the 60s, she did a lot of art that was very playful, like a painting to be stepped on, which was a canvas on the floor of the gallery. And I was at an opening actually in the 60s. Oddly enough, my father-in-law he was the publisher of John Lennon's lithographs. When John did a set of lithographs. So we got to go to this opening. That was one side was John, and the other side was Yoko. And Yoko's side, there was this painting to be stepped on, and you could walk on it. And the whole idea was everybody would walk on it. At the end of the exhibit, all the footprints would be the artwork. And she had another painting in her show in Syracuse that she had planned a whole gallery event, but she didn't know that there was a window in the gallery. And she got there and there was this window right in the middle of one of the walls. And it wasn't something she had done. And she was kind of upset at first that it was this thing to see that wasn't hers in the gallery. So she just titled it Painting to See the Sky By. So in the Whitney, they did all these things in bronze. And so there was a bronze window to see the sky by, but it was bronze. You couldn't see through it. It was like, I'm looking at it going, that's not a window, you know? And the thing on the floor was this giant thing that looked like a canvas, but it was made of bronze. And when I lifted my foot, and it's titled Painting to be Stepped On, I lifted my foot and the guard said, don't step on that. I was like, but it says to be stepped on. He goes, don't touch the artwork. So I was talking to Yoko, I said, you know, it's very upsetting, all these things that used to be fun, and you made them out of metal and they're not fun anymore. She said, welcome to the 80s. I'm glad you understood the show. If you weren't upset, you weren't thinking about it right.